Take a typical human scene here in Cambridge. 3 people having a pleasant day out on the River Cam, which winds its way between the colleges. These people, whose bodies are controlled by their brains, can interact with each other, appreciate each other, and their surroundings. They might even decide to play a song, or fall in love. Their world is not without meaning. Quite the opposite. Their world is full of meaning. To them, even a simple glance can be laden with meaning. So much so that it's easy to get carried away. So finding out where the meaning is a problem for science. And it means delving into why we have consciousness at all. Enter one of the greatest theories in science, evolution. We know all life on Earth evolved from complex molecules called amino acids. These molecules collided randomly to create the first simple living thing. Over billions of years, these life forms became ever more sophisticated, until eventually complex, multicellular creatures, animals with brains, arrived. Complex animals need brains in order to process large amounts of information. They need to be able to react to the world around them and even plan ahead. The more aware an animal is of its environment, the more successful it will be. Eventually, awareness became so sophisticated that one animal became aware of itself. And that is what we are, self-aware animals. Animals that evolution has equipped with the ability to be conscious. But how is this possible? How can a biological structure possess the ability to think, to feel, and to assign meaning to things? Not easy questions to answer. But there are theories about how consciousness could arise. Back in the 1970s, an unexpected breakthrough was made by a mathematician named John Conway, here in Cambridge. He devised something called the game of light, a simple simulation that shows how a complex thing like the mind might come about from a basic set of rules. The simulation consists of a grid, a bit like a chessboard, extending infinitely in all directions. Each square of the grid can either be lit up, which he called alive, or dark, which he called dead. Whether a given square is dead or alive depends on what is happening in the 8 other squares that surround it. For example, if a living square like this one has no living squares nearby, the rule is they will die of loneliness. If a living square is surrounded by more than 3 other living squares, the square will also die of overcrowding. But if a dead square is surrounded by 3 living squares, it becomes lit, or is born. Once you set an initial state of living squares and let the simulation run, these simple laws determine what happens in the future. The results are surprising. As the program progresses, shapes appear and disappear spontaneously. Collections of shapes move across the grid, bouncing off one another. There are whole kinds of objects, species, that interact. Some can even reproduce, just as light does in the real world. These complex processes emerge from simple laws that contain no concept like movement or reproduction. It's possible to imagine that something like the game of life, with only a few basic laws, might produce highly complex features. Perhaps even intelligent. It might take a grid with many billions of squares, but that's not surprising. We have many hundreds of billions of cells in our brain. So I think the human mind and the meaning it creates arise from a large, complex system operating to fairly simple rules, which means Descartes was right.